So let's talk about added sweeteners and sugars. We hear so much around sugar, 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 sugar. So when it comes to reading labels, we need to become very well versed in the language used around sweeteners. Now, some foods may contain more than one type of sweetener, such as evaporated cane juice, brown rice syrup, corn syrup, and molasses, right? Now, each of these sweeteners is added to the food in smaller quantities. Now, here's the game. I'm going to put you up on game. These smaller quantities allow the listing of these items to be further down the ingredient list, right? You see that game? But if you were to combine all of these different individual sweeteners, combine them, it's highly likely that the sweetener content, the sweetening content, or the sugar content would be at the top of the list, making it one of the largest ingredients in that product, right? And the food companies know this. They know this. This is how they get away with having to list sugar as the number one ingredient, because they break it down into all these little sweetener names individually, right? So we know that this is game. We know that this is game. And by the way, brown rice syrup, evaporated cane juice, all these other pseudonyms, they're not considered sugar. They're considered sweeteners. So just because a product says no sugar doesn't mean there's not sweeteners in it, okay? Which has the same effect on the body. So when you're looking at your labels, look for some of those keywords that might mean sweeteners have been added to it. I don't know why that transfers. Okay. Now we're moving on to fats. I don't know why that slide had the wrong picture. My apologies. So fats. We always hear a lot about fats. You should always read the ingredient list for any fats or oils that have been partially hydrogenated. Okay. This term signifies that the product has trans fats. Partially hydrogenated means trans fats. The trans fats that are most likely to be encountered on a food label are partially hydrogenated soybean or partially hydrogenated cottonseed oil. Now, if a product contains fully hydrogenated oils, it doesn't mean that it's trans fat, but it does mean that it is very highly processed fat and should be avoided the same. So the trans fats that we refer to, that we're talking about, are what companies add to food in order to increase their shelf life. Okay. Remember that trans fat in the diet contribute to unhealthy changes in cholesterol levels, increased inflammation in the blood vessels, negative effects on the brain. I mean, even a very small amount, minor amounts of trans fat can have very negative effects on the body. So avoid them completely. Last thing I want to tell you is that there can be a company can add up to 0.5 grams of trans fat per serving in a food product before it is required to be listed in the nutritional facts portion of the label. Up to 0.5 grams per serving. If it's less than that, they don't even have to list it. They don't have to list it. So remember to not only pay attention to, the top of the label, like on here, it says trans fat 0 grams, right? But if you look at the ingredients portion, you'll see partially hydrogenated vegetable oil and hydrogenated oils. So there are trans fat oils in there. It's trickery. It's trickery. So this is why you have to become a label reader. And then let's go on to refined grains. Okay, so refined grains, there's a whole market being a whole market out there that's using the words whole grain product, even if it has mostly refined grains and only a small portion of whole grains. So a common example is whole wheat bread. Check out, excuse me, check out the number one ingredient listed on whole wheat bread, and it will say refined wheat flour. So you want refined, you want whole grains, right? So remember to look at the ingredient list. Don't just look at the claims they make on the packaging. Don't fall victim to scams, health claim scams. Look at the ingredients, okay? Just like we saw with the trans fats, you have to read the ingredients to find out what's really added to it. So there are some examples of whole grain ingredients you should look for. If it says whole wheat, brown rice, whole corn or cornmeal, and whole oats, you're fine. Those are examples of whole grains. And then the following words signify that it is not a whole grain: refined, white, enriched, and degerminated means that it's not a whole grain. Any of those words listed on the label. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. We're going to, in the next module, look at chemical additives because, woo, that's a heavy one. So buckle up and get ready for the ride.